when a fishing boat in the South Pacific happened onto a little tiny aluminum boat filled with 3 young boys. 13, 14, 15-year-old boys were stranded into the South Pacific. Now, it was an accident that this fishing boat actually happened onto these 3 young boys. But what they said when they brought them in, they could not move, they couldn't shout, they couldn't even use their hands. They were so tired, starving, and close to death. But they could say this when they picked them up and put them into the fishing boat and rescued them. They could say, "Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for seeing us and coming to rescue us." Well, it's a strange story at that moment because these 3 boys were a part of a massive international search for them 5 weeks previously. His name is Samuel and Edward and Philo. And they were fishing in the area, but they were taking off course almost 800 miles away from their area. So they were lost. People were searching these 3 boys for several weeks, and after a while, they were declared that they were lost. They did memorial services for all of them. But even 3 or 4 weeks later, this fishing boat found them barely alive. And what a remarkable moment of their testimony. To this day, all they say about this whole experience, because they were eating the coconuts in their little aluminum boat. They filled them up with coconuts, and they used that for a little while. They actually got rid of all of those coconuts in 3 days. They thought they were going to be rescued. They used those coconuts to gather water. Sometimes they had to catch fish, or one time there was a lone seagull. Had some nutrition from that. But at the end of this, to this day, they still say, "Thank you, thank you, thank you for stopping. When you saw us, you rescued us." Let's pray. Lord, as we think about the moments where we say grace, we think about all of the things that you have done for us. We open up to the scriptures today and see not only what you did for us, for people in Scripture, but who might be filled with grace today. Help us to be aware and committed to saying grace often in your name. Amen. This whole idea, where did we ever get this idea of saying grace at the table? Because when we're doing that, we're thinking about our food right now. And we're hoping we're not going to have somebody who's going to do that prayer, who's going to, say thankful for all the birds and the flowers and everybody in your family and all the different things and reciting scripture you want to eat. But where did we get this idea of say grace before a meal? Well, it does go back way back in time to the time where Jesus asked to bless the communion, those moments at the Lord's Supper. The word grace means to say thanks, literally. And so the whole world of the Eucharist, Eucharisto, it actually means to give thanks. It's given to you. So in all of that, brain research, I'll echo what Erica's saying, brain research tells us that something is very significant that happens in our brain when you show gratitude. In fact, it's kind of the offense and defense of the brain. It defends you from those hurtful emotions that you might feel or experience. And it also has an offense. It has like that slow, like in the snow time, we have that, those trucks that they plow that snow away. It's kind of what it does in our brain to have thanks, that sense of gratitude. It actually moves your brain in the right direction for new things. It's in the limbic system of the brain, the part of the brain that's really responsible for all of your emotional experiences that you have. And sometimes it tells us that memory, your emotions, even how your body functions, it all comes into that one area and is activated by this sense of gratitude. So maybe saying grace is one of the most underrated things that we can do as Christian people. And it's also one of those underrated things that we decide not to do as well. And I don't have a better story in the Bible like this one today. When we look in Luke chapter 17, we see this perfect picture of saying grace in a way that's not only remarkable, memorable, but it has a way to save you. I'll show you as we look at this. I'll get a couple observations first in the text, okay? So when you go through this story, and thank you for reading it, when you look at this story, we see these lepers who show up. All 10 of them, they show up and they ask for help. Now, leprosy, back then, they didn't think they had a treatment for it. It's either it's a miracle or you die. But today we know that there's a way to treat this. It's one of the things that we can, if we can get earlier, we can get into that body and get to the nerves, and we can actually do some treatment for that. But these lepers were already diagnosed by the priest. They were already denounced as a sinner or unclean. They were also actually denied access to your society as well. You could not go into the synagogue. You couldn't go to these places. They're all declared also dead. Back then, it's almost like there is a memorial service for them because they're already outside of the camp. You're not allowed. But yet, they still had the sense to ask for help. So where do you get that idea inside of your heart when the odds are against you? They still ask. Take a look at this first observation. Grace does show up in the Bible against all odds, and you see it all the time. These lepers know that they're out. They're done. They are declared dead, and yet still they have one hope, one notion to say, help us, have mercy in all of that. I wonder about those three boys in that fishing boat, that little aluminum fishing boat. Did they have a sense of hope? When did they start to get discouraged? When did they finally decide that we're just gonna die? Or they're gonna try to fish, find some water. How are they going to do that in their mind? They had to have this little kernel of hope inside of them. And I noticed that in these lepers. All 10 of them decided to ask for help. And it's not just the fact that they asked and they were counted out, but it's not that. It's just the way they find that healing. It's strange. Notice it says in the text, it says that when Jesus says, go and see the priest, it's when they were walking to the priest that they found that they were cleansed. As they were going, I'm wondering if there's something in this about this wonderful grace that God wants to give to everyone. And it doesn't come immediately, but it does come when we walk in the right direction. And that miracle will show up. And I see that. So that's a second observation in this. And I do see it all the time. You know that in the Bible, look at all those old stories and the new stories where it seems like it's not just the odds are against you, but it's almost like God is waiting for us to move in one direction so that the miracle will happen. You think about the Red Sea. When did the Red Sea part? It's when the soldiers were chasing them down, right? Or would you look at David and Goliath? It's only that we have this situation where we have the biggest soldier and we find the smallest kid in the camp to fight, right? Or why did we wait until the furnace is made 7 times hotter? Or why did Jesus just basically try to fish in the afternoon when everybody says, we don't fish this way? Why did we wait 4 days for Lazarus to get stinky? Why does God show up in such a way? Maybe it's because maybe God doesn't want to give the credit to anyone else, especially us. Because we know in history, if we can find our own solutions for our problems, what happens? We are our own solution. And over time, when we try to find our own solutions, we don't really need God as much. So in all, you have these odds that they're calling out against. And then you see this idea that this grace that comes, it comes when you're moving in the right direction. So if you run and follow in faith, you will see the miracle. And then third, there's another observation in this text. I think it is that grace grows more and more as you think about it, as you experience it, as you go deeper into this idea of what's just happened. It has a way to has a foothold inside of you. And if you do it, you can actually go deeper and deeper into this miracle. Because in this text, this one Samaritan saw the miracle, it says, and when he saw it, he was healed. I wonder, what does that mean? He saw that he was healed. And it just tells me in this whole story, we have to read it carefully, because I didn't read that before. It's a great story, but now I see the nuances of what's going on. It does teach us about the concept of the miraculous. So let's take a look at a few of these miracles that we see into this story. There's these three miracles that I saw in this scene, and I love it. The first miracle is this. All of them, all 10, were what we call cleansed. Now, back then, the miraculous, it's like that they had in the Roman world, and it goes back in the ancient days, that this idea of the supernatural is very real for them. In fact, I like to describe it as a thin sheen between the natural and the supernatural. They believed that there were demons and angels everywhere. That separates us and them is a very thin sheen. It's real for them. And even the Romans thought the gods were not just some sort of a conceptual thing in a book. They believed they were real. And that's why we have people back then who would believe and see and ask. And they would identify this event as a work of God, or the demons are out us. They're out for us. So it was very real. What happens over time? Well, what's happened to us in our world? You know, we find our solutions, and it's almost like the supernatural is like there's a brick wall between us. Like if somebody says there was a miracle, I want to see the evidence. I want to know a little bit more. There's got to be another reason why that happened, that supernatural moment. We want more information before we believe that as a miracle. What happened to us that we actually have a brick wall between God and us in this world? It's created, but I'm telling you, there is a God who wants to kick down those walls today. They were all cleansed, and all 10 was received a gift. They were all healed. What if they didn't have a lot of faith? What if they're just going in a group? Is it possible that God will extend grace to all of us without prejudice and extend this abundantly to all? It's not like you deserve a miracle anyway, so when you get it, it's a gift. And we see it here in the text. And I saw it this week. You know, I saw miracles in the lives of people. When people have an opportunity to be cynics or critical, they decide to give mercy to another person or to be patient to somebody else. When they have a real good reason to pick a fight. Or people who decide to just let this thing go and count your blessings instead of number and certify your sense of justice or maybe a right that you have to let that go. I saw it happen all week long. Where does this grace, where does it come from? It comes to people. And those are choices that were made on behalf of people. But I look at this and I think, wow. There are miracles everywhere into this world. And I bet if you were to ask to see those, you would get them. And you would actually have a deeper sense of awareness that they did. The second miracle is that when he saw it, he was healed. I look at this miracle, and there is something even greater when you seize that miracle. In other words, you identify what's just happened and where is the source. And why do I get this gift knowing what God knows about me? How does this happen? And I thought, it's in the word, he saw that he was healed. This is not just a word with his vision. He perceived something. The word means that you understood, you grasped the meaning of this. It's not just, I see there's a light outside. No, it's I get this. I understand it. I perceive this truth. And sees it there. And I don't know about you, but I let these moments slip away often. Whether it's a crazy schedule, or I just have so many different things to think about. But when I see the miracle of a person's life and they say things or do things, become something. And that little miracle, it's like I let them slip them away. I was in my neighborhood and having a normal conversation, I risked a deeper question. There was a person who had oxygen, and I asked for more information because I wanted to know more. I wanted to perceive more. To do that, I understand so much more. I stepped into that place. There is something in this story that teaches us not to just ask for the miracle, but when it does happen, you stop and you steep into that moment just like a bag in a hot water, right? You steep into that and let that marinate into our hearts. And don't you think that that's what happened with that leper? That one person. Now, there are 9 who decided that, let's go, let's play, let's do, let's be. But the significance of this one leper was to perceive, to deepen this. The leper, it's gone. What does that mean? And I wonder if what it looks like if I were to do that when I interact with people that I know and don't know in my life. I might be able to identify more miracles if I were to do that, to convey my appreciation to another person. It's easy to just say goodbye. Cool. See you later. But to say those words to convey appreciation takes a risk. It's a little weird, isn't it? Somebody stops and gets really mushy with you, and you don't like the mush. Allow people to go into that because it's hard for them to do it. Asking for more probing questions, to extend these exchanges. Because I don't know about you, but I think I can go from station to station and get into a rhythm of life where I don't really probe any more than I should in our life. I think this lone leper teaches us to see deeper and extend with your feet into different places, because I do think there's one more miracle in this story. He follows that impulse and takes some steps to walk back to Jesus. It takes out of your calendar, your schedule. You have to tell your boss, I'm not coming to work right now. I need to do something. I need to say something. I need to give a gift. And he does this. Well, what does this do for us? Well, it does say something. You might say, come on, Pastor Troy, this is crazy. You're stretching this thing out a little too much, this idea. No, I used to think so. That this person thanks and worships are the same function. To give worthy in value to somebody else, a thank you. This word healing changes. Although in your translation, it has the same translation in English, it changes at the end here. When the 10 lepers were cleansed or made whole or healed, that's a physical experience. It means the leprosy is not there anymore. It's clean. But something happens when this person puts this in their brain and their thoughts, and they see even deeper. And they follow their steps back to the place to worship and say the words. To say those words, you know that brain and that heart is lighting up. What Jesus says about this at the end, he says, what? Only one? And he says this, rise and go. And it says, your faith has been made whole. That's not the same word. That's the word for salvation. You have been saved. You saw the miracle because the miracle became handed to anyone. But those who are truly saved are those who actually ruminate, perceive, get in their feet and go and say those words. He says, I want you to know that this has made you so deep into salvation you'll never walk away. Wow. This is truly a miracle. It was a miracle. There is a spot that has great meaning. And you might have special places in your life that has meaning. Yosemite, a camping place. Maybe it's outside in the backyard. It might be a special place that has meaning. But for Garrett Griffith, there's a spot that has great meaning for him. It's not too far where I was married long ago, about the same decade when I was married in Florida. Garrett Griffith comes back every year to a place just outside of Mount Dora to give thanks. It's a terrible story. Because in 1997, he was skydiving. And you'll find Garrett Griffith and Michael Costello were in a 10 team dropping down from the sky for skydiving. Michael Costello is the instructor. Garrett Griffith is the student. And they're strapped together, and they jump down and they have a great time. But you'll see that Garrett Griffith is one of the 10 top survivors from an accident from skydiving. The story goes that they jumped, and Michael Costello, when the chute would not open for his student, they got tangled up and they could not find one chute that's going to open. And they're plummeting down to the ground. And as an instructor, you have techniques. And it was at the last moment, Michael Costello pivoted his body, rotated, and broke his student's fall. And he was killed instantly. However, Garrett Griffith, he was spared. He had a fracture in his spine, but he walked 2 weeks later. Everybody, the media were trying to get an interview with this man. They were offering $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 just to have an interview. For weeks, he couldn't even speak about this. He completely, and that's why you can't find YouTube interviews with this, because he won't do it. He won't sell the story, what happened to him. But he does go back every year. And he goes to the place in that area, and he thinks about it. He still doesn't say a whole lot, because what words would you use to convey that kind of grace? No, but you can see it's very real. And I wonder if that's what it's going to be like for us in the end. When we start singing that song in Revelation, you know what they're going to do? We were talking about it. Ted, come on up here and lead us with this song. But I want you to think about, what does it say in Revelation? What did they do at the end? We're going to stand up and we're going to sing. And we're not going to sing about our great works, our things that we did, our like degrees or businesses or things like that. We're not going to talk about our own skills. We just made it, right? We're going to sing. We've been redeemed by somebody else. And that's going to be us. We're going to say, thank you. Perhaps we should try now to say thanks.